So a man has been found guilty today of a racially aggravated public order offence after burning a Koran outside the Turkish consulate in London. Hamit Coskun shouted anti-Islamic slurs as he set the text alight in February. Footage showed passers-by confronting and actually attacking him. The 50-year-old argued that it was a protest against President Erdogan, the Turkish president, and a lawful act of freedom of expression. However, today, the court ruled that his action caused distress, specifically to the Muslim community, and ordered him to pay a £240 fine. I sat down with Hamit Coskun after the court ruling today. So this is part one of a two-part interview, by the way. So I started by asking him what he made of the verdict.
To be honest, this was not a decision I was expecting. I was found guilty. I don't think there's a legal standing for this verdict. What I did was only use my freedom of expression. Freedom of demonstration is a democratic right, and you do it in the streets.
Why did you burn a copy of the Koran and then shout things like, F Islam, Islam is the religion of terrorism?
First of all, I got caught up in the moment and used a swear word and said this in my statement to the court as well. And the fact that I shouted the Quran must be banned, and also Islam is a terror religion. At the time, I defended this at court, and I'm still defending this. I've been studying the Quran for 25 years. I've been studying the paragraphs, the rules, and everything. And these words are not random. The slogans I'm shouting are not random sentences I'm making up. I'm an atheist, I'm an Islam critic, and I'm an activist. And I've been fighting for 25 years now. Because of the recent developments in Turkey and the fact that the country is going more and more towards Islamic propaganda, it pushed me. It caused me to have impulses against these impacts, and I got really emotive about this.
We have a big problem in Britain with radical Islamist terrorism. We all know that. We do. However, there are huge amounts of peaceful Muslims in Britain. Can you understand why they would have been very offended by what you did?
Yes, of course I was. The people I'm criticising are the radical Islamists, and I'm aware that it would upset them. But for years, I was against ripping of the Quran or tearing the pages. But because it's been spreading everywhere, the radical Islamists and the Islamic propaganda, I decided to show my protest, demonstrate on the streets, and burn the Quran. I've been writing and expressing my opinions for years, but now to be able to make a bigger impact, I decided this would be the right action. I'm not criticising Muslims, I'm criticising the religion, Islam itself, and I'm trying to raise awareness about the effects of the Quran.
Do you think that Britain has a problem with the amount of radical Islamists that are here?
There's a big problem around the radical Islamists. I believe it's a huge problem that should be addressed in these countries. One of the arguments the prosecution brought up in the courtroom was instead of criticising the religion itself, I targeted Muslims and used statements like saying they're spreading around the world. I'm still saying my opinion, that my target is not the Muslims. It's a fact about the Quran, Islam, the religion itself. I'm not targeting Muslims in this case.
It's time now for part two of my exclusive interview with a man who was found guilty today of a religiously aggravated public order offence after burning the Quran. So, essentially, we now, in my view, have blasphemy laws in Britain. So that's progress. Hamit Coskun shouted anti-Islamic slurs as he set the text alight in February. Footage showed passers-by confronting and then attacking him, and the court ruled that his actions caused distress, namely to the religion of Islam, and ordered him to pay a £240 fine. Well, I sat down with Hamit Coskun after the court ruling today, and I just thought, well, I'll ask him, would he do it again? Do it again?
I'm an activist, I'm an artist, and I'm a critic of Islam. I've been fighting for this for years, all my life, and I intend to continue my fight. But it might not be burning the Quran. It might be protests on the street. For example, it could be writing down these certain paragraphs from the Quran that promote violence and terrorism, and holding those papers to use my right to protest.
Have you had death threats as a result of what you did?
Hundreds of death threats have been targeted towards me, especially on my social media pages. I received the threats from areas like Birmingham and London. They sent me messages saying they'll find me where I am and they'll cut my throat. That is the truth of Islam.
Have you given those messages to the police?
I told the police about the messages, and my lawyer submitted one of the messages to the court. In London, after I burned the Koran, two guys found me in my apartment and they showed me the video of me burning the Koran and they attacked me. One of them had a knife and the other had a glass ashtray. They showed the video to me and they told me one day I'll die because of doing this. Just wait for the day you are going to die, they told me. I went to my room. I called the police and they came and arrested two guys. The next day they were released. I'm not sure what happened to them in the end. I don't understand this because I was in custody 2 times and each time's between 20 and 24 hours, and also my bail conditions were really strict. I had to go to the police station to sign in and could not go further than the train station. This means that even without the court giving a verdict, I was kind of punished.
OK. What do you think this says about freedom of speech in Britain, and have you got a message to our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer?
Since my arrest, I've faced serious disappointments, especially the fact that I was prosecuted and the outcome of my prosecution, as well as the tolerance for the attacks I've been faced with, as if they're trying to punish me and protect the Islamists.
Do you think that of all the religions, Islam is the most protected, is protected differently in Britain?
I don't think that other religions are in the same position to create any kind of threat against civilization, against humanity and against democracy.
Very lastly, quickly, your message to Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister.
They're trying to please that part of the community and they're trying to enforce the blasphemy laws. The democracy of Great Britain is under serious threat, and people, just because they post opinions on social media, are arrested and they're attacked. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, should especially take certain steps on this topic and not make any compromises so that he can protect or please this part of the community. Why only be sensitive to Islamists? There are other groups of minorities like Jewish people. They have to hide their identity before they go on the streets. They disclose their identity, they're attacked by the Islamists.
I'll just go to my panel on this now. Carol, what do you make of what that chap said there? You know, death threats, Keir Starmer, he says, trying to appease more radical elements of the Muslim community.
I think he's absolutely right. And it sends chills up my spine that someone can find you like that and threaten you and say you're going to die. You know, you were right what you said earlier. We have a new blasphemy law has been created. It's been created by the CPS and that district judge, a guy called John McGarver. And this ruling cannot stand. I'm really hoping that the Free Speech Union takes this to court, or tries to appeal this, because you cannot have laws created by the CPS and the judiciary that are against the explicit will of Parliament. You cannot have that happening in this country. And I think, you know, yes, the whole point of living in a liberal democracy, the whole point of living in a multicultural, multi-ethnic community is that we can criticise each other's religions. We can criticise anything we want. This is the point. And yes, some people might be offended if it breaches their blasphemy codes. Yeah. But that's the price you pay for living in a multi-ethnic community.
Look, I've got no desire to go and burn a copy of the Koran. I do think it is a bit distasteful, and I wouldn't like it if someone burnt a copy of the Bible. That said...
Well, they wouldn't be prosecuted.
They
wouldn't be prosecuted,
I wouldn't expect them to be prosecuted. And is it not quite interesting that I don't think there's another religion on the face of the earth where if you offend it, you might still be stabbed to death for that in 30 years' time?
Yes.
Well, there's 2 things about this that I just think are really interesting. The first thing is, if proven, those alleged threats to his life, they're terrorist attacks. To me, they are terrorist threats against him. And I was thinking about this because, of course, we did have in 2015 the appalling attacks after the Charlie Hebdo paper put a picture of Muhammad the Prophet on the front, which was regarded as blasphemy in Islam. And I was looking back about what was said in Parliament about that at the time. And funnily enough, a lady called Yvette Cooper, remember who she is, now the Home Secretary, made a statement. And she said that the leader of the opposition had gone to the Unity rally in Paris. I think it was Ed Miliband at the time. She said she herself went to Trafalgar Square, stood there holding a pen up in the air in solidarity with the journalist in that magazine. Correct. And then she finished with, "Je suis Charlie." How quickly she and other politicians have forgotten about their fight for freedom of speech and freedom to allow this to continue in this country. If the Labour Party truly doesn't want a blasphemy law, they've got to legislate to change this now.
Scott, why have we got Islamic blasphemy laws in Britain now?
I think this was about law and order, and I just wondered that if it had been, I mean, I agree with you, had it been the Bible, it wouldn't have been the same. Had it been the Talmud, it would have been seen as anti-Semitic and a serious offence. I mean, I just think that we need to think about, he deliberately did it to offend, to do law and order, because he said nobody's listened to him for 25 years, that he's been studying Islam, he's an atheist, he thinks Islam is a really dangerous religion.
He thinks the Koran. So he thinks that there are passages in the Koran that are actively dangerous and that is leading to people being radicalised. That's what he says, and he wants to make that clear to people.
Yeah.
And he's not the only one who's saying that.
And I'm sure, and frankly, there's stuff in the Bible that people would find deeply offensive, right? Yes. OK, so what I'm saying is that
people aren't blowing themselves up because of it, are they?
Well, not in this country.
No.
Christians.
There are, I think we have, there are even, I mean, I think Buddhists were the first suicide bombers. So, I mean, I think every religion has their total and utter fanatics, and I don't think it's only Islam. What worries me is that this person, he did it on purpose to try and get...
Explain why.
Well, that's what protest is about.
But he was protesting against Erdogan's government in Turkey and how it is becoming Islamified. He's perfectly entitled to do that. You know, the thing is, if we're talking about great hostility against a religion, you just touched on it there, Scarlett, and if this was... We have seen massive hostility towards the Jewish faith in the past 2 years in this country, and people aren't being dragged into court because of it. They get away with it. We've seen people on these Palestinian demonstrations burning the Union flag, urinating on it. What happens to them? Nothing.
Yeah.
We're supposed to stand by and watch all
Keir
that.
Starmer, when he was a barrister, he defended someone
Yes, he did.
for burning the American flag and said it was a legitimate protest to outrage people. Well, that's changed his tune now, hasn't it?
Well, there we go. I mean, I was not aware of that particular court case, but I'm aware of certain other ones as well that have taken place over the years involving Sir Keir Starmer, including a now banned terrorist organisation, Hizb ut-Tahrir, and whether or not they should have been banned in Germany. But, you know, hey, you can't... It's the cab rank rule, everybody. It's the cab rank rule.